Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Calgary, Alberta, on Thursday, July the 8th, and I'm glad to be here. This is a 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. I have the chat room open if anybody would like to come and sit in there and they're awake. I'm just having some coffee and waking up myself. I wanted to continue on looking at this article that I found regarding trauma and dealing with the effects of trauma, a self-help guide. And this is from SAMHSA. That's the National Mental Health Information Center, SAMHSA, at http://mentalhealth.samhsa.gov. And it's a great article, and I really like it. We've been kind of working through it. We're about halfway through there, maybe a little bit more now. But it's I like some of the things that they had to say in it, and that's why I've actually done this actual article before, many shows back. And but I wanted to talk about it some more because it's really a great article. It's worth looking at for adult survivors of child abuse. So this is one child abuse survivor to another. Glad that you can be here and join me. I'm not a professional counselor. I don't hold any professional counseling certificates or therapist certificates. I'm a private citizen who pays to do my own blog talk shows, really because I believe that, the more voices we have out here talking about child abuse and the effects of child abuse and prevention of child abuse and just all the different aspects and issues that surround child abuse, the more voices we have, the better off we are, because we'll get something done. We need everyone's voice to be involved in this. We really need the support from those who have not been abused, as well as the support from those who have been, right? Everyone's voice is really necessary if we're going to make a change in this and stop child abuse. So I thought, hey, I'll just be one more voice to add to all the other voices out there who are talking about this and getting this information out to people, right? It's not mainstream. And that's it does need to be mainstream at some point. We see the articles in the newspaper regarding child abuse. Usually, it's just the sad, tragic stories of these children either being murdered or or ending up in the hospital due to abuse that they've suffered at the hands of their parents or caregivers, right? So that's why I wanted to just do a show, for survivors, one child abuse survivor to another, and also for supporters of survivors who might think, I'd like to help my friend or, someone that I know who is a survivor of child abuse, and I need to get more information on what they're going through, sort of thing. I thought it might be good, to do these shows, and I'm really happy that you can be here. And my other show, Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention, is just a bit more informational regarding the whole issue surrounding child abuse, and some websites and information that I find sort of to help people who may not know where to access that information, because I'm studying all the time. I'm in between courses at MRU, and I study child rights, human rights, and the whole issue surrounding international community development, and so I'm busy studying all the time. So I'm in between courses, and I thought, hey, I'll just keep going. I'll just keep researching and see what I can find to bring out to people. So that's why I do these shows, and so I appreciate you all tuning in, and the subject and topic of abuse is very sensitive, so you have to listen at your own discretion. If you feel that the topic will make you uncomfortable, then you just need to turn the show off. That will not be hurting my feelings at all. And if you're a young person under the age of 18, I say this on every show, really because we're fighting to save children's lives. That's the whole issue, and really fighting to help protect children. And so young people under the age of 18, I would ask that you have permission to listen to my shows. There's a lot of adult content on here regarding child abuse and whatnot. It's ultimately about stopping child abuse, for children. But the thing is, I don't know how young some of the listeners are and where the Blog Talk players are. So I would ask that you have permission to listen to this show, and maybe find someone who you can trust, a family member. If you don't have a family member who you can trust, which I know, happens, that's the whole issue. We're fighting to stop child abuse, right? You can maybe ask a teacher or a counselor, someone who you trust, right, who's proven themselves trustworthy, that can listen to one of the shows with you on archive or something, and see if it is something that you should be listening to, right? They can sort of help you make that decision, right? So thanks very much for tuning in. We'll get right into this article, and it's called Dealing with the Effects of Trauma, a Self-Help Guide from SAMHSA, SAMHSA's National Mental Health Information Center. And yesterday we started the healing journey portion of this article, and we were looking at learn how and know and appreciate your body, right? And also setting boundaries and limits that feel right to us. We were talking about that, and we sort of left off right there. The next portion of this is that they suggest here. It says, begin your healing journey by thinking about how it is you would like to feel. Write it down or tell someone else. In order to promote your own healing, you may want to work on one or several of the following issues that you know would help you to feel better. So they've listed a whole bunch of stuff here, and I've seen most of this stuff on other websites that are specifically designed for survivors of child abuse. And that would be like the ASCA, the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a Morris Center program. That's www.ascasupport.org. That's another great website for people who have been abused as children and then grow up with these adult survivor issues, right? And there's all kinds of great information on that website as well as a Survivor to Thriver workbook, which I really like. And I printed the whole thing out. It's 115 pages long, but it's a great workbook, and I've read through it a few times now, but I have never sat down and actually done the workbook, just myself in my own private time, which I plan on doing because I'm okay to work through this stuff now, by myself without hurting myself or injuring myself or hurting someone else. So we do have to know where we're at in our healing, right? When you go and look at this stuff, take a good look at where you're at and what would maybe possibly trigger you. Be very careful about moving forward in your healing. And if you are having a hard time, make sure you reach out and get some help, right? Whether it's a therapist, a counselor, group support if you just don't trust the traditional support systems of therapists and counselors. There's always group support too. I like that because I like safety in numbers. I've had always a real hard time dealing with the whole thought of therapy and counselors, and that's just because my parents were so paranoid and schizophrenic, that they just caused us to have these thoughts that if anyone got a hold of our information, they would just use it against us, right? So that's why I like the whole comfort zone of a group, safety in numbers. But the thing is some people might prefer to have a one-on-one support because they just wouldn't feel comfortable in a group setting. So whatever works for you, that's what you have to do. If you're a survivor and you're just having a lot of problems and feeling very much isolated and alone, which I was, for the better part of 40 years. You don't have to suffer in silence. There are some good people out there that I have run into that I never thought would have been there that really want people like myself and other survivors of child abuse to be able to move forward in their healing and get the help that they need, and they're really standing behind us, to say, you can do it, we've done it, you can do it. So that's why I'm doing these shows, right, to pass that message along to everybody else, that yes, we can do it, and it is hard, and there's no doubt about that. And so, but the whole issue is look for that hope, look for that, keep that hope, right, alive within yourself, that at one day you're going to have more good days than bad days, right? Just keep that hope alive, that at one day you're going to really truly love yourself for who you are and enjoy this life. We deserve it, right? This is why I'm doing these shows, because when you're abused as a child, the saddest thing is of course, as a child, children just don't have a voice, and they sometimes don't get help and protection, and so they grow up these adults with all these adult survivor issues, and then they have to try to learn to cope, right? And quite often will self-sabotage or just feel that their life is always going to be this way, and never really think about the fact that, by healing and moving through our healing journey at our own pace, we can learn to experience joy. We can learn to experience love. We can learn to experience loving ourselves. That's a huge one, right? Trusting ourselves. That's also another big one. Trusting other people, right? I mean, I wanted to be trusted, so I started to think, well, if I want people to trust me, I'm going to have to learn to trust people. But I'm still very cautious, and I think everyone should be. You should not just trust everyone. Obviously, we know if you grew up abused, you just can't trust everyone, including family members. So the whole issue is, but it's little by little, incorporating some really trustworthy people into our lives does help to learn how to use your own judgment. You know what I mean? And it does sort of give you some confidence in that area, right? And so I started doing that, and as I did that, I realized, hey, I actually ran into, hundreds of awesome people who were, really supportive. And so that's what I would wish for everyone else, right? So we'll get on with the next portion of this article. It says, I love this, learn to be a good advocate for yourself. Ask for what you want and deserve. Work toward getting what you want and need for yourself. If you want to get more education for yourself so you can do work that you enjoy, find out about available programs and do what it is you need to meet your goal. If you want your physician to help you find the cause of physical problems, insist that he or she do so, or refer you to someone else. It says, when you are making important decisions about your life, like getting or staying married, going back to school, or parenting a child, be sure the decision you make is really in your best interest. And that's a really good point. That's very, very much valid information there. We have to really be our best advocate. We have to be our best, support. Because if we're not going to necessarily get the help that we really need, or be able to do the things that we really want, and in life, and so often, people who have been abused. I mean, obviously, they're not looked after. And they're made to feel worthless quite often. There's a lot of, self-worthlessness, low self-esteem issues that can be caused by child abuse of all kinds, whether it's, physical, verbal, psychological, sexual, right? This abuse is very, very hard on people, on children, right? They grow up then with all of these issues and find it hard to advocate for themselves, to stand up and say, this is what I need. Because when you're abused as a child, you can't stand up and say, this is what I need, you know what I mean? Because you'd just be abused more or possibly killed, right? So that's the whole issue, right? And so as an adult, we have the right to say those very words, this is what I need, this is what I want. And I started really getting serious about that, many years ago as an adult, right? And saying, I want to have a good life, I don't want to suffer on in this crazy life, that was sort of inflicted upon me, and then I sort of took on as a destructive behavior in my own young adult life, and was really trying to do what my parents had started, which was destroy myself. And so I started to think, why am I doing this? Why do I have to do this for the rest of my life? Can I not have a good life? Is there some sort of sign that's put on my back that says, Lori cannot have a good life? So, I started to think about these things, and I thought, no, I deserve a good life, just like everybody else. I was abused as a child, went through a lot of garbage, but the whole thing is, does it have to be the be-all and end-all? Well, that was in my 20s when I started feeling like that, and 20 years later, I was still feeling like that. And so that's the whole issue. I had done a lot of different things and gone on. I went to school for a short period of time to learn to a cooking school, and did some things. I was busy working and whatnot. But the whole issue is I still had all that underlying stuff that that was still within myself, saying, do I really deserve to be on this planet? Do I really deserve to be treated well? And did I, am I sort of questioning myself, like, do I belong here? Am I ever going to be out of this pain? And all this stuff would come to me, and this was just 3 years ago. And then finally, I decided, no, I'm gonna start fighting to live instead of fighting to die. And so that's a huge issue for a lot of people, and I hope that everybody who's listening to this, and if you ever have those thoughts, what is this ever going to change? Is my life ever going to be worth living? Am I worth something? That you will be able to look in the mirror and answer those questions and say yes. But, it doesn't mean that it just happens overnight. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And you really have to be proactive. And that's why I like this, what they said here, learn to be a good advocate for yourself. Because at some point we have to sit down and really think about what it is that we do want and what we do feel that we deserve. I study human rights, see, and that's why. Because every person on this planet deserves the right to life, first of all. And a good life, health care, protection, security, safety. We know what life is things happen in life, and there's nothing, anywhere that says, that someone has a perfect life, right? If there's always something happening to people all the time, very traumatic things, but it doesn't mean that we can't pursue a good life. And so that's why I started to really get serious on myself and learn how to love myself and how to trust myself, how to deal with some of the stuff that I had been going through for so many years on my own. I didn't reach out and get any professional help. I just did a lot of my own self-help, and started to do a lot of affirmations, positive speaking to myself, looking in at the inner child that was within me that I knew was raging, and really upset all the time, that didn't feel loved and didn't feel cared for and didn't feel wanted, right? And so I sort of had to start self-nurturing and saying, no, I deserved better, but I can't change the past. So what am I going to do to move forward? I started to ask myself these very serious questions and look in the mirror, and I would look in the mirror like every day, and I would say, I do count, I do matter. And every day before I went to work, I would say that. I do count, I do matter. And it started to build on another picture on the inside of me of who I am to myself and who I am to the world, really, for anybody that knows me. I thought, yeah, I do count, I do matter, so why am I not, reaching out and getting some help and really, feeling any better? So at that point, that's when my healing journey started, and that was 3 years ago. And so, it does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. And some of this stuff just has to be dealt with. So make sure you get help. Don't suffer in silence and sit there alone thinking, I'm all alone and I'll never be able to reach out, because there's different avenues you can reach out. You don't even have to give your name. You can join a lot of these group support websites. You might have to give your name to sign in with the actual moderator, the group creator, because they would need your first of all, your email address and whatnot, and quite often ask for your name. But the actual community, the actual group, they don't need to know your name. You can sign up you do a profile with an anonymous name, and that way no one needs to know your real name. So if you're if you're concerned about those issues, right, there's all kinds of different ways a person can get help and not suffer in silence, right? I'm so glad that I reached out, because in doing so, it caused me to accelerate in my healing, I would say 100%. My healing went from a very kind of a slow pace of, let's say, 40%, up to, 100%, I would say. I'll never be, I don't know, I'd like to think, at some point a person could be possibly healed completely. I don't think the memories really, for me, I'm not necessarily trying to push them away, because I'm fighting to stop child abuse, right? And it's part of who I am, you know what I mean? But the whole issue is the feelings that I had 3 years ago are really a lot different than the feelings that I have right now, sitting here 3 years later. So we need to really be able to look within ourselves and see what we need and what's going to make us happy, what's going to make us, at the end of the day, feel good about ourselves and say, hey, I did it, I tried. Even if you fail at something, it's better to try than not to try at all, right? That's what I say. It's worth a try, because if we fail, then we can just look back and say, well, hey, I tried. I did my best and I gave it my all, instead of not trying just out of fear or saying, well, what if I fail? Well, what if you fail? Then you fail. Who cares? Move on. Pick up the pieces and get going again. That's the whole issue. We do deserve to have a good life. If you have been abused as a child, it's unfortunate, but you can really, make some sort of set a plan in motion for yourself, for healing and whatnot, and also to have the kind of life that you'd like to have, you know what I mean, which is filled with peace and it's all the things that are not material, right? For me, it's peace in my heart, comfort, just knowing it, waking up in the day feeling like, hey, this is great, another day, and going to bed at night thinking, wow, that was a lot of work, but it was a great day. Just having a lot of contentment within myself and within my life, that was very important to me, and I just didn't have it, So that's the work that I had been doing for the last 3 years, is to bring some sort of sense of peace and some sort of sense of contentment and feeling like, hey, this is good. I'm working in the right direction here. So I would hope everybody could do that, and that's my wish for everyone, right? The next portion of this article says, build your self-esteem. You are a very special and wonderful person. You deserve all the best things that life has to offer. Remind yourself of this over and over again. Go to the library and review books on building your self-esteem, and do some of the suggested activities. That's awesome. I love this article because they're so personal in it. You are a very special and wonderful person. I mean, I love that. This is great, really. It's great for anybody, right? You deserve all the best things that life has to offer. And, remind yourself of this over and over again. That's exactly what I did. And, it really did help. It made a big difference because it started to, like I said, paint another picture on the inside of me of who I was and what who this little person was inside of me. Helped me to sort of feel like, hey, I can do this. I am worth something. And this is, it really helped me out to help build my self-esteem. And so I would hope that other people could do that for themselves too, right? And get a different picture instead of the ones that someone created for you. Whoever was the abuser in your life, right? Created this picture of you on the inside of you, right? And it wasn't your fault. And that little person, whoever it is, it wasn't their fault. And they really there's a connection there. You know what I mean? We have to see ourselves for who we really are, that we do matter and we do count, and that we are within ourselves, worth something, right? And to the world, right? I mean, and even if I wasn't to the world, I have so much more of a different outlook on things that I wouldn't really care, because I feel good about myself on the inside, and that's what really counts. So that's what I would wish for everyone, right? It says, develop a list of activities that help you feel better. Refer to the list in the section, things you can do to help yourself feel better. And do some of these activities every day. Spend more time doing these activities when you're feeling badly. And that's what we went over the first part of this section, was things you can do every day to help yourself every day to feel better, right? That's the first section of this actual article. We went through all that. And there's all kinds of things that we can do. They actually suggest on many websites, including the ASCA, the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse Morris Center program, www.ascasupport.org. They actually suggest that people get their own coping lists of things that they like to do and things that help themselves feel better, to personalize their own list, right? So whatever, if you like to listen to music and that's your favorite thing, well, that would be what you would put at the top, number one. And then if you like to go for a walk, and sit by a river, or just go to a park and sit around and just enjoy the sunshine, that would be number two. And then if you like, let's say, to read books, that could be number three, right? We have to just personalize our own list, right? And that way, when we're feeling down, we can go to our list, keep it very handy, right? The whole idea is that we would keep it handy. This list, we wouldn't put it away somewhere and then forget where we put it. That would be no good, because then we'd be searching for this list and then we'd probably be frustrated because we couldn't find it. So keep the list somewhere very handy so that it's with you sort of all the time. And then if you're having a day where you're feeling like a bit anxious, out of sorts, that something's happened and it's kind of caused you to feel that sort of same feeling of self-worthlessness, or maybe you feel, that whole flashback sort of stuff that comes back, right? You can kind of sort of help feel better by getting your list out and saying, okay, what can I do out of all of these that'll make me feel better? And then you don't have to think about it. Go and start at the top and work your way down. And, supposedly the whole idea is that by the time we work our way down the list, we'll really start to feel better because we're doing things that we like to do, and it does help promote some positive sort of health, within ourselves, right? So that's a really good idea, and I like it, especially for people who are trying to manage crisis. And there's crisis coping lists for people. If you think you might are self-harm or self-injure, there's lists that we can create for that. There's all kinds of good coping lists on Michael C. Irving's website. It's www.irvingstudios.com. Michael C. Irving is a psychotherapist. He's also a sculptor in Canada here, and he is also a survivor of child abuse. And so he has a website. It's called the Child Abuse Survivor Monument. He is the creator and founder of the Child Abuse Monument in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's a great website, and I would hope everybody would check it out. You can get to the website through his link on his website at www.irvingstudios.com, or you can just type into your browser Child Abuse Survivor Monument, and that will take you there as well. There's some great that's a great website. There's some awesome adult survivor coping lists on there, and I've actually been through them a few times on my shows, and they give you some real great ideas. So that's just another place that you can look for information. And so, we can develop a list of activities, these coping lists, right? Things that help us feel better and keep it handy so that we can spend more time doing these activities when we feel bad, and hopefully that will help bring us out of it. You know what I mean? So we have about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to cut off there because we'll finish the rest of this tomorrow. Tomorrow being Friday, I'm sure we'll be able to. Well, I don't know if we'll be able to finish the whole thing. There's another page and a half left here, but we'll continue on on Friday. I wanted to mention there's a good friend of mine. He's an advocate. He is a survivor. He is a poet. He's an author. He has done some phenomenal, absolutely amazing work in the UK, and you can see his stuff everywhere. He's written a book called Whispers from Within, a survivor's collection of poetry and prose by John Harrison. And I would like everyone who's listening to these shows to please go and check out John Harrison's website. And you will be amazed at the information, really, that he has made available for people. He's really quite proactive in this whole, search for more help for people who have survived child abuse, and also to stop child abuse, right? So he's very active in the UK and working with many different groups, to try to make these changes that are necessary. And now I have John's book here, and I had just got it. I have not had time to read it, but I will be reading it, and I'm just going to be so amazed and so really so blessed by it, because John Harrison is a fellow survivor and also my friend and ally. So I would like everyone to go and check out the website. I'm going to give you the link right now, and I'm just kind of going over right now to grab the link, because I want to make sure that I can get the right link for you. But this is the work that he just now recently is starting his own Blog Talk radio shows as well, and so I'm going to get that for you as well. So he did his first test show, and that's exactly what it is, a test show to see whether the volume was okay and the sound quality and whatnot. That's what I did for my test shows as well, too. But the test show is worth listening to, because you really get to hear from John's words, John Harrison's voice, to say, what he's doing, and some people that he's working with in the UK, and talks about the UK rally that's coming up, the rally against child abuse. So you want to check his website out, and you can also find John on Blog Talk Radio. It's the Be Safe First Always on Blog Talk Radio. B as the letter B, and then safe, and then first 1ST always. So you want to check that out, and then his website is amazing, and I'll give you the actual. I want to give you the correct link, because yesterday I was going to do this, and I didn't have it in front of me, and then I was trying to think, and I didn't want to give you the wrong information, so that's the whole issue. So I like his website. He's done some videos regarding his poetry, and he reads some of his poetry, and when he reads it, it's much better. It's great for me to read it, but to hear it in John's voice, that is what is so powerful. And so that's why I hope you will check it out. And HTTP, this is John's website, his main website, Be Safe First Always. And you can get there, HTTP, www.be-safe, letter B, safe, S-A-F-E, first, 1ST, always.com. And also he has the Poet John, the main site, and that's his own poetry site, and that's www.thepoetjohn.com. And then on Blog Talk Radio, I'm going to just click on this to actually get the right link. This is just his first test show here, but this is great, and I hope we'll be hearing more and more and more from John Harrison, because he's one more person out there who is a survivor, who is standing up and saying no more silence, no more existing in silence. And I think that is so awesome. So Blog Talk Radio here, John Harrison, www.blogtalkradio.com/B as the letter B, safe, first, 1ST, always, and that will get you there. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We've got about a minute left on my show, and I really hope you will check out John Harrison's stuff. Please do. And we've got a minute left. I'll be back on tonight on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio with Elizabeth Roberts-Browley, Southern Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. And that is on at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time at www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. And we'll be on there tonight, and then tomorrow morning again. I'll be back on One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. So I hope you guys all have a great day and a great evening wherever you're at. And I hope that you can tune into some of the shows. And if you need some more information regarding child abuse, signs and symptoms, statistics, please check out our website at Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. That's a great website for survivors as well. I found it to be very, very a healing place for me as a survivor of child abuse. So make sure that you do check our website out and really learn the signs and symptoms of child abuse and how to report it. This is so important. You know, we have to look out for the children in our own lives, right? So you want to make sure that the children in your world are safe, and you can get that information from our website and from many other websites. There's great websites out there regarding child abuse and signs and symptoms and how to report it. Make sure that you do the right thing and report child abuse. If you suspect child abuse, and you don't even have to know for sure, right? We are not to investigate, right? If you suspect a child is being abused, you have to do the right thing and make the phone call. It's so important, right? It's against the law, like, to not report child abuse, because child abuse is against the law. It's a crime. So let's make sure we keep these children safe today, right? Let's make sure that we work to protect these children out here today will sadly be abused, right? Everyone take a look around you and make sure that the children in your world are not being abused, right? They cannot stand up for themselves, and they do need us to look out for them. So take care, everybody. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll be talking to you real soon. Bye-bye.